Do you want to be able to get access to millions of dollars in funding for your business? Well, you need to watch this video because here I'm going to show you everything you need to know about getting business loans for your business. So that way you never run out of money. We know that's the number one reason that any business fails is because of the lack of capital. Make sure you stay all the way to the end though, because I'm going to show you exactly which banks you can go to depending on your situation. So that way you can get the most amount of money from the banks. I'm going to show you how to qualify everything else that you need to know. This is the ultimate video. So let's go. What's going on? It's Colin Brown here from Business Credit Unlimited back. So how to get a small business loan here in 2025. What is a business loan? We're about to jump straight into it because we have a lot to cover. A loan that a bank gives a business to cover expenses or expand operations. Now, there's multiple types of business loans available, like vehicle loans, commercial loans, equipment loans, real estate business loans, etc., etc. But the focus of this video really is standard term loans. And a term loan is essentially what you think about when you hear a business loan. It's a term which is a specific, I edited out though, is a specific period of time, aka the term that you have to pay off a loan. And again, it's the standard loan that you think about. You have a $50K loan for 48 months, like one of the loans that I had. That's what a term loan is, just your standard business loan. Now, before we move forward, this is one thing I want to cover right now and get this out of the way. Contrary to popular belief, new business owners do not qualify for business loans 9 times out of 10, at least any decent business loans, okay? Now, what is a new business? What do you mean by a new business, Colin? An LLC that's been established for less than 2 years, I would consider a new business. And being in business for 2 years, like you've been doing your thing for more than 2 years, right? That doesn't count unless your LLC has been established, right, with the Secretary of State in your state or whatever state that your LLC is established in for at least 2+ years. Now, Age Corps, you may be thinking, well, I get an Age Corp to skip the line. Sometimes that doesn't even help because the banks are looking for the ownership, your ownership, to be with that specific business for 2+ years. And also annual revenue less than 100,000. Combination of those two, especially, I would consider that to be a new business. And this is very important because I do not want to mislead anyone, especially with me saying big numbers like up to 5 million. I ain't saying that you can start a business and get access to $5 million or up to, nothing like that, just to get it out there. But that is a possibility depending on which loan that you go for. Okay, but you have to qualify, and normally you're going to have to be in business for at least 2+ years. Now, even with a great credit profile, don't expect to get loads of cash for your business. Again, I just want to get that out of the way, because at this point, when you just get started, you're less than 2 years and you're still considered a new business, you haven't demonstrated that you can pay back a cash loan yet, or that you have the ability to do that for a long period of time, or you don't have the longevity proof yet. Essentially, that's what I'm getting at. You don't have the proof of concept up to this point, because even if you have paid back some loans on the personal side, even if you have a business loan from a bank that allows you to get funding from them before 2 years, you haven't done that for a long period of time. So don't expect to qualify for the better business loans. Possible, but for the most part, your options will be slim. And again, even if you got personal loans that you paid off, most banks for business loans, they're going to want to look at other business loans. Okay, so they're not going to really look at your personal profile and say, oh, he has a mortgage, he or she has a mortgage, or they have a personal loan that they paid off. That's not really the case. But if that's you, you're less than 2 years, you're a new business, it's okay. All you have to do is focus on business credit cards. Use that to start, grow, or scale your company. Do that over a period of time, and then you'll qualify for these business loans that we're going to go after, okay? That's simple. Just focus on the 0% business credit cards first. That's what I'm a huge proponent of anyway. So yeah, you can get those right away. You can start a brand new business and get access to business credit cards, leveraging your personal profile, but the same cannot be said about business loans. Was I clear enough there? Hopefully. So, standard qualifications for business loans, the minimum credit score requirements sometimes could be like as low as 600, 640. So the standards aren't nearly as high as it is for business credit cards, but that's if you have the revenue and the cash to bring to the table. If you don't expect that either. So I'm also not saying that minimum score for a business, you've been in business for like 5 years, your credit score is a 640, but you haven't generated any revenue yet. I'm not saying that now you automatically qualify. You're normally going to need that revenue and cash strong. Okay. And what is revenue or cash strong? Normally they want to see like 15K plus a month on an average, like to 3 to 6 months. One of the lenders that I work with, I may bring him on the page too. He's looking for 4 months of bank statements. Okay. So 4 months of bank statements. So that's why I put 3 to 6. That's typically what I see of 15K a month. If you have 1 month that's like 13K, just try to make up for it to have, make up for that by having a 17K month mixed into that 4. So does it have to be exactly 15? No, but it needs to be around an average of 15K a month before you really start thinking about a lot of these options. Okay. And notice how they mention profit. I'm talking about gross because there are a lot of banks that will be okay just by you having that revenue coming in and not so worried about profit. Okay. So do with that information as you will. Now, business age can be as low as 6 months, like I said, but normally best results 2 to plus years. That's the business requirements and the standard qualifications, but we will go over because there's essentially 4 to 5 different types of business term loans. We'll cover those in a second. Then we'll talk about specifically which banks you can go to or which programs that you qualify for. Documents. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to term loans, documents or documentation is normally the heaviest out of all the other products. Okay. By documents, I mean tax returns, profit and loss statements, bank statements, balance sheets, debt schedules. These different types of documents that you may or may not have right now is normally going to be required when it comes down to business loans, especially for the SBA. You better be prepared to throw the whole kitchen sink out there because for the SBA, they want a lot of documentation for a lot of their programs, not for every program, not for every program by the SBA or the Small Business Administration. They do not require that heavy of documents for all of their programs, but for the programs, especially you're looking to do over 125K or so on a business loan with the SBA, expect to provide all of those documents, okay? Or have all of that documentation. Now, also really quick, I wanted to mention that there's 2 main types of business loans, a secured and unsecured loan. So unsecured loan would be a business loan that doesn't require any type of collateral. So you just get it, free and clear. A secure business loan would require some type of collateral to secure the loan, like equity in a property or an asset. Doesn't have to be like a property, can be any asset, cash, etc. Essentially, you have to put something on or provide some type of lien to to a property. All right, that's a secure loan. Now, if you have something like this, like you have equity in a property, this will allow your ability to get approved for a higher amount to be even better because banks, it depends on which bank it is and which program it is. When you start getting you start getting past like a 150K ish, then a lot of times they expect some type of collateral, but it really depends on the bank and it depends on the program. Now, when to secure a business loan, I always want to go with unsecured if possible, right? That's always better. But, if it applies to you, right, you want to do that only if it exceeds 50K. So don't do a secure business loan for anything less than 50K, right? And again, like I have here, unsecured business loans are always better because you don't have to put up the risk or you don't have to incur the risk of putting up an asset like property or cash. All right. Now, where to go for a business loan in 2025? Here are your main options. I hope you're ready because we're getting down to the meat to it. And I think I'm going through this pretty fast. So let me know, if y'all enjoying this, go ahead and comment right now. Anyway, matter of fact, like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to tell y'all midway through because it's about to get even hotter in here. Let's go. Let's go. Let's keep it going. Stay locked in. All right. Now, where to go to get a business loan in 2025? Local credit unions. That's number one. If you have a local credit union or a local bank that you already have a relationship with, this is going to be a great option for a business loan if you're 2 years plus in business, you have the revenue, so on and so forth. Here's the pros of using a local bank or a local credit union. The local banks may give you a higher chance at being approved depending on your situation because of your relationship there. Where a lot of times where you may be denied if you were going to a major institution, you may have a higher chance of being approved because of your relationship. A lot of you guys, you've been with your credit union in your local town for like 10, 15, 20 years or something. Your parents have an account with them and they got you that account when you was 18 or something. Now you're in your 40s or 30s or something, right? Something like that will probably help you. All right. More personable. That's another pro because you probably have a designated person, right? That person been working there 5, 10 years or something like that. And you can go to them. They have a lot of knowledge. They're going to be very personable with you. They'll update you on things, put you on things. Keep that in mind. Now, another pro is that a lot of these loans will be backed by the SBA, so expect great rates. All right. Cons. These banks may or may not have the same amounts of the loans as other options, depending on the size of the bank. Right. So maybe your local credit union doesn't go up to $1 million or $150K and things like that, depending on your needs and the size of the loan that you're trying to get. They may or may not have that option. It really depends how it's being underwritten, because a lot of times, like I said, a lot of loans, even with the local banks and credit unions, is backed by the SBA. All right, so you may be required to give full documentation at some of the local banks. They may not have the resources to really be able to give out, no PG and no tax returns, so on and so forth. So you may have to bring the documentation to the table. So it's just something to keep in mind. But this is an option for you if you have, a local bank or credit union that you already with. Now, here's the biggest option. Option number 2 is alternative lenders. Alternative lenders are the banks that don't fall quite under the classification as a major bank, but also they don't fall under the classification of a local bank or credit union. There are a vast amount of these banks. It seems that if you Google a business loan, something like that, there's a lot of different options out there. And just to be real with you, this is a little bit off of the record here, but a lot of these options are not good for a lot of these alternative lenders. Okay. And I'll explain more as we go on. But anyways, pros. Normally the approval rates are higher. Okay. So if you're looking to get there fast and you just need the cash to make payroll or something, especially if it's more short term, then you have a higher chance of being approved. Also, possibly, it depends on the bank and the program, but possibly lower documentation requirements will be pretty much a standard depending on the situation, right? That was a little sloppy the way I said that. A pro is possibly lower documentation requirements, simply put. All right. Cons, higher interest rates. So really, again, depends on the bank, depends on the program. But a lot of these alternative lenders, maybe some guys that you're not familiar with. It's not your Chases and your Bank of Americas and whoever the case. But it's not local either. If you've kind of never heard of them or you just heard a little bit about them, maybe on a YouTube video or something. These are the guys that I'm talking about. Okay, typically they have higher interest rates, but it depends. Okay, possibly you could be paying back weekly on the loan. I've talked about that a few other times. Me personally, I've done it before. I've done it, I won't say several times. I did 2 business loans and a business line of credit that I had to pay back weekly on. And this was back in 2020, 2021-ish, where, I knew about funding then and I was funding like my personal credit repair clients, but at that time, I wasn't near as deep in the game as I am now. So I was really just trying to build up some business credit history where I was paying off some loans, which is paying dividends now that I have that history on my business credit reports. But either way, I wouldn't do that now. Me personally, I'm not going to pay anything back weekly. But again, it really depends. You may just need the cash quickly to cover like a payroll or to cover something, more short term. So, it really depends. But I don't like weekly payments because normally the interest rate is going to be higher on that. You're going to pay back a lot of money. And when you're getting a loan, like you don't want to make weekly payments. Like, well, come on. And there's some even, excuse me, I should have put this here. Let's add that. There's some even daily, depending on who you go to, especially for those MCAs or merchant cash advances. It could be daily payments. Who's trying to do that? All right. You could have to file a UCC1 filing, but this is also standard for some of the major banks as well. So that's not as big of a deal, but just throwing some of the cons out there, right? Now, the next option, moving on, is going to be the major institutions. Okay. So again, like I was saying earlier, like your Chases, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Truist, all of the guys that a lot of you have heard of, right? So most major banks offer business loans and it can be excellent options. Like really, I could qualify for a lot of these major institutions business loans before, but didn't really understand that they had those options. So I just never really paid them that much attention until more recently. But either way, pro is more than likely offer the best interest rates. All right. So local banks and credit unions do as well. They can offer higher amounts depending on documentation. All right. So the interest rates normally are going to be better. And also they can offer higher amounts because, they have the resources to do so. And then one con could possibly ask for the most documentation out of all three options, but it depends on the relationship. And I shouldn't say the most because the SBA has like the most documentation requirements, but possibly at least it's going to be heavier than the alternative lender side, at least more times than not when you're dealing with the major banks and institutions. Okay. The major banking institutions. Okay. Now, here's the best option of them all, right? This is where we get to this up to $5 million number with the SBA, with the Small Business Administration, okay? Now, most major banks offer business loans that are backed by the SBA if they don't underwrite them themselves. And there are several different options or types of SBA loans, like the SBA 7A loan, the SBA micro loan, etc. So there are different programs within the SBA, right? One of the pros of the SBA is the interest rates are the best, bar none. I don't think there's any rates that are better than the SBA, really. And the SBA 7A loans can go up to $5 million, okay? Those amounts are typically the highest available. This is a government loan, right? A government-backed loan. So they have the most resources available for small businesses. So that $5 million, if you qualify and your revenue hit, we actually had a client that went through and I don't know if he got the 5 million, but he definitely got like, I've had to check, but I do have one particular client went through the SBA, found me. I connected him with an SBA rep. And he got like 3 million, something like that. I can't remember. I have to go back and look, but either way, up to 5 million, definitely possible. I've seen it. And the terms are the best. Think of the EIDL or the PPP loan where, and I ain't talking about no scamming stuff, the people that was doing that incorrectly. I'm talking about you legitimately needed a PPP loan for a business or an EIDL loan. But you know that like for those loans, especially like the EIDL, because I didn't get the PPP loan, but for the EIDL, like you have like a 20K loan and the term is like 30 years or something. So it makes the minimum payment like $90, less than $200 a month. It really depends on how much money you got from them. So the terms are the best. And it's crazy because the interest rate is the lowest and the term is the best, which make the minimum payment the lowest. So it's a sweet deal, right? But what's the cons? Well, it requires the most documentation, easy, depending on the program. Again, it's not for every single loan, especially like less than 50K. But for the ones that are over 100, 125K, yeah, the documentation is heavy. And it can be overwhelming if you're a busy CEO and you're trying to do it by yourself. It can be overwhelming. That's why it's best to have an SBA representative help you. I wouldn't try to tackle all of it on your own. Like I've seen it. You got a dashboard where you got like 50 things you're responsible for, all these types of business plans and projections and of course your tax returns, all this stuff. Like it's a lot of documentation, right? They ain't finna give out this $5 million for nothing. You ain't finna show up. Oh, I just did a no PG $5 million loan. It ain't gonna go down like that. All right. You don't have to prove it. So that's one thing about the SBA loans. All right. Now, the good and the possibly ugly with business loans. This is something I went over a few times, and I just alluded to it a few times earlier. There are some business loans that most business owners should avoid because they're not all the same. Like I said, MCAs or merchant cash advances, I can't tell my clients to get none of these. I would really have to know for a fact that you are about to flip this money that you get in like 30, maybe 90 days. 6 months is kind of crazy, but that's like the absolute latest because these merchant cash advances, okay, or MCAs, again, a lot of times you have to pay back on these loans daily, okay, and the interest rates are crazy. It just eats up. Like even if you get 50K and you got to pay however much a day, $200 a day or something, like that's just crazy, right? It just kills your profit in your business. It just kills your cash flow. And that's a complete opposite reason that you get business loans in the first place, right? So I've shown this before, like a list of different MCAs. I don't recommend doing these unless, and, shout out to these companies here. I'm not knocking nobody because again, it can fit, some people's situations. But don't think if you see an MCA, that's one thing you want to ask. Like if you're going for, well, you're going for some of these companies, right? And you may not even know what you're getting yourself into. I've had a lot of clients that didn't really know what MCA was or anything like that. You're going through these companies, you really need to ask that. That's one thing you need to ask. And don't think that you're getting off like, oh, shoot, they offered me 50K and I didn't even make nothing but, 3K, $3K a month. And not really getting off is probably MCA. Okay. And there's a lot of those companies that's like they reach out the most. They're kind of aggressive with their marketing. So you may have gotten an email or you may just see something online like an advertisement. Yeah, just be very careful. Okay. And again, I would avoid the weekly payments. I would go for monthly payments. Okay. Just bar none. Now, some of the banks that you can go to, we get down to the juiciest part. Business loan options for the 3 types of lenders. So for local banks and credit unions, this one was obviously hard because, I don't know where you're at. Like you could be in my state in Alabama. You could be in Maryland. You could be in Cali. You could be in Nevada. I don't know. So that would depend on you. So you literally can just Google local business loans and see, or I would just go again by the relationship that you already have with a local bank or credit union. And obviously we have a database for how to find some of these local banks and credit unions too. But I would only suggest that you go with one that you have a relationship with anyways. So some of the alternative lenders, some of the options is on deck. Now I've had some some business loans with on deck. I don't typically recommend them, but it really depends on the situation. It is always a situation where it will call for an option like an on deck, but most of the loans will require weekly payments. I think they say on the website it can be monthly. I just didn't get them for whatever reason, but I just wouldn't recommend them unless you had an exit plan. So you have Funding Circle. Now I believe they're known as iBusiness Funding, Fundbox, BHG Financial. I got a 125K loan from BHG, Bluevine. These are some of the options that you can go to. And I was going to do a deeper breakdown on all these options, but the thing is, we'd be here all day. This would be like an hour-long video if I broke down each and every bank. So we're going to just do that one step at a time. I'm going to make other videos about these other options. Now, some of the major banks options, Bank of America. I would only do that if I have a relationship with Bank of America or I'm looking to establish one, like a Chase Bank, Wells Fargo, US Bank. I got a 50K US Bank business loan, so that is a good option too as well. But these are some of the options for the major banks. Now, lastly, what should you consider for any business loan? One question I would ask is, what is the interest rate? Okay. A good interest rate is going to be under 10. Anything over like a 15 or so is not the best, but again, depends on your goals and your situation. I just took a business loan with an interest rate above 15%. It was actually 21%, but I do have an exit plan for it. I have a clear exit plan for it. Okay. Now, 2, what is the term? aka the time period or the amount of payments. That's very important too, because this will dictate your interest rate and also will dictate your payment. If your term is shorter, your payment will be higher, but the interest rate should be lower. Okay. Are there any prepayment penalties? If you want to get out the loan early, will you be penalized for it? If it is, how much? Okay. If it's not a crazy amount, then it's okay. But like if they're not allowing you or there's going to be like, too high of a fee for it, it's something you want to pay attention to. Are there any origination fees? I typically don't like origination fees, but it really depends on the situation. If you got to do it, just do it. It's a loan personally guaranteed, not something I would pay too much close attention to because like it is what it is. You're trying to get out this loan anyways. And that's a good thing about it. Like you pay the loan off now, it doesn't matter. They can't come after you anymore because it's already paid, right? But depending on where you are in business, maybe you don't want any personally guaranteed loans, right? Will it require a hard inquiry? So that's also something to pay attention depending on your situation. If you already have a bunch of inquiries going on, so on and so forth, right? So that is pretty much it. That is the video on how to get a business loan and some of your options. Like I said, this was more of the grand overview of what it looks like. Now, for each institution and for each option, we're going to create separate videos on that and really break it down some more. But this gives you a good head start. And if you already have the relationships going on, then you can make it happen right now. But if you're looking for a one-on-one option, you want somebody to hold your hand when it comes to getting business funding, possibly some business loans, some 0% business credit cards, just hit the resource in the description, schedule a call. It's so cool. I've had like 3 clients that just signed up with me like last month, just get funded, and they found me from here on YouTube. So they listened to this, heard me say, hit the resource in the description. They did it. We got on a call, got them funded already. It's so beautiful, man. I love it. I always love my leads from YouTube. So shout out to everybody that's going to come from YouTube. But either way, you could be the next testimonial. So hit the resource in the description, schedule a call, fill out the survey, and we'll talk about exactly which banks we will go to, how much funding we can expect from them. So that way you have a solid foundation on how to get funding for your company. But that's pretty much it from now. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Interact with me there in the comments. And make sure, again, that you like, comment, and subscribe because we're keeping that heat coming. And at 1,000 subscribers, I got something special for y'all. So make sure you hit the subscribe button again for the 3rd time. But that's pretty much it. See y'all in the next one. Peace.